Okay, I hope you're excited about our greeting card app. This is going to be our first day. We'll do a little bit of setup here, and we'll try to do a little bit more each day as we go. Today, I mostly want to be able to get the file set up and just show you a little bit about how things work. And so over the week, we'll build our greeting card app. Each day, I'll have code for you to download, which will keep you up with where we're at. Now, if you're going along fine, you can use your code from the previous day. And of course, for this first day, we'll all have to download the code. So let me show you how to do that. We're going to create a project folder. We'll do that one time, and then we'll create a new folder for each day as we go. One of the advantages of that is if we make a mistake, we can go back and get the files from the previous day pretty easily. So the first thing I want to do is create a project folder that I'm going to use all week. And I'm here on the C drive on my local hard drive on my machine. I can go up here to New Folder, and then I just type the name of the folder. And we want these all to be the same for each person. So this should be called Greeting space card space project. So greeting card project, that's the name of my working folder. Now I want to go ahead and get my file that has the code for today. I can't show you this on the video, but my understanding is you'll be able to get this from Blackboard. One way or another, whoever's running the presentation will tell you where to go to get the code. So I'm going to get the code now for myself, and I'm going to put it in this folder, and then I'll show you what to do with it. So let me pause the video for a minute and get that for you. Okay, so again, I created my greeting card project folder, and then I've downloaded my day one code, and this is in a zip file archive. By the way, you might not be able to see this is a zip archive. If you don't see the extension, but it says compressed over here, you go to Organize, Folder and Search Options, View, and then you come down here and you see where it says Hide Extensions for Known File Types. You want to make sure that's unchecked, and then you'll see the extensions. This is one of those things that Windows does for newbies, but now that you're learning how to code, you're kind of a wizard, and you need to be able to see those file extensions. So unclick that and hit OK or Apply, and then OK, and you'll be able to see this. Now I've got my zip file here. What I want to do is just double click on the zip file, copy the day one folder, and then hit the back button. Notice I'm back in my greeting card project. There's my zip file. Right click here and save, or paste, sorry. And now there's my day one folder, and that has the code in it. So what I've done is I've uncompressed this. The reason I didn't just extract it was that creates an extra directory I don't need. I'm going to go ahead and delete the day one code. I can always get it if I had a mistake, but it should be fine. And so now I'm ready to go. I have my day one. Okay, now we have to open NetBeans and open the project up. And again, I'm not exactly sure how that will work on your system, but whoever's running the directions will explain that to you. So I'm going to go ahead now and open NetBeans on my machine. And because I have it installed, it's down here. There's an icon for it, and I can launch it. So this is Netbeans IDE 8.0, and that's what we're going to be using this week. So now that I have NetBeans open, I'm going to quickly go up here and make sure that all of my file projects are closed. You don't have to do that. Since I've been working on the project, NetBeans wants to go ahead and open it for me. And I don't want that for showing you how to do this. So we're going to go ahead now and open the files to the project. Okay, so I'm going to open NetBeans. And I should be able to do that here. You can't see it, but I've got a little icon there. Again, someone will explain to you how to do this. It might be a little different than what I have here, and so they'll show you. So now that NetBeans is open, I'm going to go up here to the file, and I'm going to say Open Project. And let me go back here and just show you. So if I come up here, I'm on my computer. and then I'm on my C drive, and then there's my greeting card project folder, and there's the day one. You see that little HTML5 icon? That shows me that that's an HTML5 project folder for NetBeans, so that's important. This day one is the folder that I extracted from the zip file that I downloaded. So now when I open the project, it'll have all the files I'm going to use. I can come over here to this site root, expand it, and there's the files. The files that we're going to alter are the index.html, the main CSS, and the script JSS file, and JS. And that's a JavaScript file, a cascading style sheet file, and an HTML file. This other JS file is a library. We're not going to mess with that. That's already done for us. So to open these, you double click them. So I'm going to open all three. There's the index file. Notice that this stuff here just kind of closed on me. That's so I can work with the whole file. But if I bring my cursor over here, it'll open it up again. So I've got the index. I'm going to open the CSS, come on back, and let's see, and open the script file. So now I can see index.html, main CSS, the script file. I'm going to close the start page. I don't need that. It's just in the way. Okay, so let's go to our index.html file. And also right off, I'll show you how to run the application from within NetBeans. So you go up here and you click on this little browser icon, and you can pick which browser you want to use. I've been using Chrome and Firefox to test our application. Right now I have it set on Firefox, and when I click the green button, it'll launch the app in Firefox. And that's what it's doing now. And you can see that this is a simplified version of the app that I showed you in the intro video, because we're going to build it. So all I have enabled right now are the lines. So if I click here and set the line, I'm going to get 20 lines. Before that, if I want to do the background color, I can do that. Let me go ahead and let's pick a sort of, how about a light gray there? Hit OK. And then if I click clear, it'll set the background to that color. And now I've got the line selected, and I'm going to draw 20 lines. I can go ahead and make them a little bit bigger. Let's do that. Let's set this to 300. And then I'll hit draw. And that'll draw me 20 lines. If I want, I could change that. So there's 20 lines. If I want to draw a few more, I can click it a couple more times, and each time it'll draw 20 more. I can also change this if I know ahead of time. So for instance, I might want to draw figures one at a time, although that'd be kind of tedious. Okay, so I've already gotten the lines drawn. The rest of the functionality I've shown you, but it does work. So we can go ahead and save this as is, or we can set our text up and then click text to add the text and then save it. So all the functionality is here, but the only thing that's working right now are the lines. We're going to add the rest of the figures in, and you might even develop your own figure as we go. So I still have NetBeans open, and I can either leave this open and come back, and if I want to if I've changed the code, then I click here to reload it to see the new code. Now notice when I do reload, it starts over, so it's blank. My choices are all gone. I have to put them back in. All right, let's close the browser. NetBeans is open. It's on the HTML. And I'm going to kind of show you some basic stuff right now. So here, the HTML has a head, which begins with an HTML head tag and ends with a closing tag. And within the head, we have information about the page. One thing you might notice is the title of the page is up here. So you're probably going to want to change this from my name to yours. So you can very carefully do that now. If my name was Bilbo Baggins, I'd put it in like that. And then it would say Bilbo Baggins Greeting Card Maker. Okay? And since my name happens to be Tom Wolf, I'll change it back and leave it. Okay? And then down here, this is a display title that shows up in the browser. And we can leave that as it is, or if you want to put your name in there, you can, that's fine. And then down at the bottom in the footer of the page, see where it says footer there? We've got this @copy. That's going to be the copyright symbol, 2014, and my name. And again, you're welcome to change that to your name. You're going to make your own app, and you can claim your copyright. You know, I forgot to do something, which I'll do later, and that's to put in the special icons at the bottom that show that we're really savvy and we're doing HTML5 and cascading style sheets 3. Okay, so as I started to say, the page has a header section, has an opening and closing header tag. Notice how the tags match, except the closing tag has the slash, okay? Similarly here, this is called a level 1 heading, and it has an opening and closing tag as well. Most of that you don't have to worry about. It's already all done for you, okay? Within the body of the document, so the main document has a head and a body. Within the body, we have a section. The section has a header, a footer that we already saw down here, and a main section. And so the main section is where most of the code is. Again, a lot of this is done for you. You're not going to have to mess with it. But basically, I wanted to show you that here is the code for the HTML markup, I should say, for the 4 buttons. So we have a draw, a clear, a save, and a text button. You've already seen how those work. If we come down a little further, here's a section with a division called Fig Control, and that has a little title there and a paragraph called General Parameters. And now you're starting to see the things where you put in the information. So total figures, maximum figure width, maximum figure height. The background color we saw, that's a color selector. And then an alpha, which is will cause the transparency. And then if we come down here, we have a checkbox called fade. The way that works, if the user checks it, as the program draws the figures, each one will be slightly more transparent. And it calculates that so that the last one is almost invisible. So if you draw 20 figures, it'll run down by about 5% of what's left of the transparency. If you do 100 figures, then it would recalculate, and each one would be slightly less transparent so that we'd do all of them. So it'll draw all the figures. They'll be in successively smaller levels of opacity, which means they'll be more and more transparent. But it'll calculate on the fly so that the last figure is always going to show, but it'll be almost clear. Okay? Now, this is where we're going to make a lot of changes. So here in this figure selector section, you'll have a label and an input for each one. And right now, I just have the line. So let's go ahead and add the rectangle in. And I'm going to go ahead and just copy the lines. And I'll paste them in right here. And then I'm going to change this. So this ID here is now going to be rectangle, R-E-C-T, rect check, like that. And then this 4 is the label for it, and it has to match, okay, just like in the model. And then this now will be rectangle. And so then I can save this, and if I run it, the Netbeans that we're using will save it, but I can just hit Control S. Now to run the file from within Netbeans, I can click the green arrow, and I'll do that again. It's still going to show it in Firefox. And notice now that the rectangle checkbox is there. Okay, so I just added that in. All right, let's go back to Netbeans before we try to run it, because I want to show you how it works. So we have this file, which is the HTML, and it kind of provides the interface that the user sees. And then the code is going to actually show up in that canvas area in the upper left, which is 800 by 800 pixels. If we go to the script file, this is the JavaScript that generates all the figures. And so I need to have a variable here, which is kind of like a constant, which is just a name for the figure. So I've already added the one for rectangle here. You can see the one for line is there. And then if we come down here to the draw function, each time it's going to go ahead and pick this data up. So all of these variables that begin with a P are parameters that are in the HTML. So this total figures is how many figures to draw. That's in the total figures drop-down box. And so this code here says, grab that total figures element from the page and read its value. And the default value here is 20, but if the user changes that, it'll be something else. So it could be 1, it could be 150. Similarly, we can get the width and the height and the alpha value. So the alpha value defaults to 70. Alpha value, again, is the transparency. So if it's 100, that's 100%, then it's totally opaque. If it's less than 100, then it's going to be transparent to some degree. If it's 0, you won't see it at all. It's absolutely clear. It's invisible. Here are some other variables that we're going to use to cause the drawing. We'll introduce those as we go. And then if you see here, we have a figure set. The figure set holds these values that we're including in the drawing. So when the user clicks on one of these, when we go to draw, it reads the click to see if it's set, and if it is, it adds it to the figure set. So again, I've already done this one here for the rectangle. So this is the name of the rectangle checkbox that we just created in the HTML. And this says, this part says, go ahead and get it, and then check its property checked, and that's going to be true or false. So if this is checked, then we're going to add the rectangle variable to the figure set, which turns out to be 1. Now, it doesn't actually matter that that's 1. We don't have to worry about it. Although if we want to randomize the figures, we want them all to be run continuously. So the first one is 0, then 1, then 2, etc. Okay? All right. The next one that I add will go in here. This is checking to see if the user wants us to fade the figures as we draw them. So if that's not checked, they all draw at the same opacity. Otherwise, we calculate a new opacity each time. This is a loop. It's going to go for how many figures we're told. The default is 20. So this loop will repeat 20 times. And the loop starts here, and it ends way down here. Okay? And within the loop, the first part, we go ahead and set some drawing things and get some quantities. So we have to begin a path. We'll explain this, but basically at the very beginning of the program, we get a graphics context from the canvas. The canvas is the element in the HTML that we're going to draw on, and this is called a 2D graphics. So G2 is a common name for that. So our context is called G2. And so G2 begin path says we're getting ready to draw, so we'll start a path, and then we set the line width, and the line width here is going to be random, but we add a 1 there to make sure it's not 0, because it doesn't make sense to draw with a line width that's 0. The line width is how thick the line is we're going to use to draw these figures. Later on, we'll explain the random and some of the math in that. So for right now, you don't have to worry about that. We're going to generate a color, so we get the red, the green, and the blue, because HTML uses what are called RGB element colors. So each color is composed of a red, a green, and a blue factor. So this just randomizes those and then builds a color. And we're going to get 2 colors, one for the fill, which is when you have a closed figure, that's the color used to paint it. And then one for the stroke, which is the line that draws the figure. So if I drew a circle, the stroke color would be the circle's perimeter, and the fill style would be the color inside the circle. Okay? This just gets a random location on our canvas, and it uses the canvas width and the height to determine that. This gets another random location, and for the rectangle, we'll use this for the starting XY point, and we'll use this for the ending XY point. And so you probably know some coordinate geometry, but what's different about this is most computer systems don't use negative coordinates. They put the origin in the upper left corner, and as x increases, it goes across, and as y increases, it goes down. Okay? Again, we'll talk about that more on. I don't want to overwhelm you here at the beginning. There's some other things here that we're not going to use yet. I've just left them in there. So this will get the center point for circles or for control points for special kinds of curves. We are going to use the width and the height. And then the radius we won't use here, but of course we'll use that if we do a circle. Here's the code that looks to see if the user wants us to fade the figures as we go. If that fade flag is set, because we read it up at the top and found out that they had checked it, then we change the alpha value by the fade factor each time and then set it on the context. So every time through the loop, this will subtract and the alpha value will get smaller and smaller, which means the figures we're drawing will get increasingly transparent. We're not using the number of rotations yet for this one. Again, we'll use that a bit later. And then here, this code is going to randomize which one of the figures in the set we're going to draw. Again, I'll explain a bit of this more later, but right now what it does is it randomizes from the set we've created. So right now the set originally can only have one thing in it, so we would always pick that, which is a line. But now that we've added the rectangle, it will also do the rectangle. And so this is going to alternate randomly between drawing the line and the rectangle. And later on, as we add more figures, we'll have to add another case block to this switch statement. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing tomorrow as we add more figures. All right, let's go ahead and test our application. So we can go ahead and run this. And you can see again that I have the rectangle and the line. So a good way to test it first is just to click the rectangle only. And I've got the 20 figures, that's fine. I'm not going to change the width. You can play with that on your own, so I'll just draw it. And there are my rectangles. We'll draw again. All right, let's clear this. Now we'll test it with the line and the rectangle checked. And now you can see I get a combination of lines and rectangles, and I can draw a bunch of them. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how to get this set up, and the only code we added was the HTML code for this part. But tomorrow, as we begin to add more figures, we'll add this and the symbolic constant that I showed you in the code and the actual code. So that's a good start for our first day, I think. We got started, and we'll just want to go slow enough to keep everybody on board and make sure we're all at the same place. So I hope this was useful for you, and I hope you're going to enjoy developing the greeting card. Again, the card is already functional, so you can play around with it and play with the different parameters. So you might, for instance, want to see what happens when you mess with these figures. Basically, this is 800 by 800, so this is our canvas, and so these are going to do pretty small, and if you make them bigger, then you'll get a wider range of sizes. You can also change how many figures you draw at once, so play around with it and see. Okay, I hope you enjoyed your first day. Hope you were successful. Take care.